Can I ask a question?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I'm trying to differentiate. I'm trying to get clear. I love this. Very freeing and helpful. And then the question, the confusion that comes in is, it's possible to just be irresponsible, to just not try about something in a way that's unhealthy, like
Anything that makes you feel freer, more unloaded, unburdened, by definition is healthy. Even if it means suddenly starting to eat unhealthy or indulge or whatever it is. If it feels unburdened and you feel inwardly more healthy, then whatever act follows for a while is the more healthy act to take. Even if it doesn't compute with anything we've been taught.
Okay, so giving up
doesn't mean you give up your integrity toward other beings, but you give up your ideas about what's healthy and what's not. And you start to really listen to what makes you feel freer and more excited and more joyous and more in your own harmony. And whatever that is, accept the physical consequences or your diet or whatever you're referring to. As long as it maintains that integrity, it's all good. But please go on if you want to explore
I think that the ego still gets trapped in here because it's like...
You mean you?
Yes, because it's like finding a way to make that a confusing problem. Because, so I'm a failure. That's one for me. Well, but that doesn't mean it's a good idea for me to just not make an effort toward a career.
May very well be exactly the best choice to make.
But it doesn't mean it's a good idea for me to not take responsibility for producing my own means in life. You know what I mean? Right? I mean,
what does responsibility mean to you?
I guess the trap, I just want to make sure that I don't use it as a trap.
Sure.
The trap has been that something reaching perfection in some way is so much effort that I can't take the pressure, and I throw my hands up and give up in order to escape from the impossible pressure of the trap that I've put myself in.
Sounds good.
And then I lose my job or something.
Sounds good.
Or I do something really stupid. And
so far, so good. Because who would care except that portion of your consciousness which is looking through the belief I'm a failure? Who cares about not being responsible? Who cares about losing their job? Who cares about not being able to maintain their own life?
It's a little scary.
I know, it's scary to that portion of your consciousness which still believes from the belief I'm a failure that it can win, that it can beat the game from within the game. That's why it's scary. So what you're feeling is the remnants of that portion of your consciousness which is looking through that belief. That's what you're feeling right now. That's what you're observing. You're not actually observing the whole extent of your life or the entire extent of your consciousness. You're just observing that portion which is now triggered, which sees through the belief of I'm a failure. And that's the part of you that now fears that it's going to be irresponsible, or that fears it will use it as a trap. And similarly, that's often the portion of our consciousness that's afraid of spiritual bypassing. No, I need to suffer. I need to keep suffering until I've suffered everything out of my system. Why? Because if I don't, I'm a failure. If I don't, I bypass. If I don't, I'm not responsible. It's that portion of your consciousness which loves to torture itself. in the name of God, of course.
Yeah.
What's crazy to that portion of your consciousness is actually the right choice to make from the other 99% of your consciousness. In order to become whole again, in order for that portion of your consciousness to withdraw back into its whole beingness, its source, its essence. From that point of view, you may need to do a little crazy stuff sometimes a little bit crazy, out of the norm, because the norm is, when you feel you're crossing the norm, from that point of view, you're actually skipping out of the game. You're jumping out of the game's law, its zone of laws. That's why it's scary. That's why it feels irresponsible. As long as it's not sacrificing your integrity, your heart level integrity toward other beings, as long as it doesn't take away people's free will, you're all good. And as long, of course, as you don't, whatever, that common, what you would know as integrity and respect and loving thy neighbor as thyself, as long as it doesn't sacrifice that, do anything you like, lose anything you like.
I just see this escapism thing that I want to do. Be like, I don't even play this game anymore. I'm just going to take a vacation from this whole game. But then...
Why vacation? That means you have to get back.
Sometimes I
That's great.
Well, but sometimes that can be just stepping off into dysfunction.
Which is scary to what? To whom? Is it wrong? Has
I'm
the
gonna
universe...
end up depending on someone else, so that I'm going to be hurting someone else. I'm going to be not carrying my own weight.
Has a
The way
tree...
where someone else has to.
Has a tree ever judged that?
I'm living with my parents.
Do your parents have plants in the house?
I need to eventually not live with them. This is supposed to be temporary.
But
Not just extremely excruciatingly uncomfortable for me, but also not supposed to be long-term for them.
So let me get this straight. From the point of view of wanting to be responsible and trying it, you're living with your parents, right? From that perspective, has been prevalent in your life in the past so many years, or?
Well, living with my parents was accepting defeat to a degree and was letting go of some stuff.
Right.
I did not want to. But it was like, well, this will take some pressure off, and I can, it's okay.
My point...
I'm
Right.
not a failure.
My point being that from your allegiance to that, what that portion of your consciousness calls responsibility, from your allegiance to that, you still live with your parents. So apparently it doesn't work. You can't win the game. That's the point.
There's that thing of it's just taking all this time, and it's okay, and it's the process, and isn't finished working yet.
My other point being that if you wouldn't have that allegiance to being responsible and taking care of yourself, if you wouldn't have that fear, which is tied in with the fear of failing at it, you wouldn't live with your parents right now. Because you'd be successful. Because you wouldn't worry about being a failure. So you would make your own means by not trying to make your own means. Because you wouldn't feel responsible. You wouldn't be afraid of being a failure, therefore you wouldn't play the game of failure, which you're meant to fail at. You see? So when you subscribe to these ideas of responsibility that are based in the belief or in the idea, I need to make my own means, I need to take care of myself, make sure that I can sustain my own life, that is induced with the fear of I'm not able to do that. I'm a failure. And like I said, and like we explored, you can't win. So if the belief underlying your idea of responsibility is I'm afraid to fail, and you're choosing to play that game and subscribe to these rules, guess what's going to happen? Since you can't win, what's going to happen? You're going to fail. And you're living with your parents, right?
I already failed.
Isn't that a failure to your...
Yes.
Isn't it game over already?
37 years old, living with, yes, it's a failure.
There you go, game over. It's a failure to that belief, so admit it. Say, You were totally right. I'm so sorry, Willie, for ever trying to challenge you. You're absolutely right. From the get-go, you were right. I was not able to do this. I'm a failure when it comes to taking care of myself. It's totally true. It will never not be true.
I think I'm seeing it from more than one point of view at the same time, and that's where the confusion about responsibility, because I also do see responsibility in a proper life that's not attached to being a failure.
Right.
So I'm seeing both at once, and then I'm trying to use
Right.
the same word for them.
They're not the same, exactly. Well, that's very good that you see that. So make a distinction there for yourself. Make a very clear distinction. What is true, heartfelt responsibility, and what is not.
Thank you.